that's how you get people to really to find out what people are really like, because people can be so what's the word, so put up a pretense on social media. You never really see the true individual behind the screen, but when you're face to face with them, it's a different story.
Look at this guy. I just think about the fuck around find out graph, because he's been fucking around so much that the find out is going to be glorious. Hello, is that Sophie?
It's the wonderful Sophie Molly.
Can you hear me okay? Just check. We got a line check.
I can hear you. Hear you loud and clearly.
Yeah. The first thing I wanted to get into really was because I think when I first got to know you, it was through Heather, and you were working with Heather, and I think it was about the time of the gender self-ID bill going through Holyrood.
Yes, the old GRR.
So that must have been 2 years ago now. I think it was January or February 2003.
Yeah, that was incredible, and yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago, but it also feels just like yesterday, and we're all sitting in Parliament with our legs crossed, anxiously waiting on the result.
Yeah, it was one of the longest ever debated pieces of legislation. I think it was stalled and brought back.
The filibustering was unbelievable. Like every 5 minutes, either a Tory or a TERF or some other transphobic fanatic would stand up and shout something just to delay the proceedings.
Yeah, that seemed to be one of the tactics. And also, what I remember about it was there was a lot of money ploughed into the group called For Women Scotland. Did you have any direct connection or?
My goodness. For Women Scotland, they still attack me to this day. They invited me to their hustings when I was standing in the election. I was considering going, but then they just went on an open tirade against me online, and I was like, you know what? Nah. They're just getting everyone to pile on me and all that stuff. Under their because they have a few different groups belonging to the umbrella of For Women Scotland. There's For Women Scotland, then there's For Women Scotland for Sport, and then there's Women Won't Leashed, who they're all kind of associated together.
Well, yeah, they came out of the group that was part of Magdalene Burns. I think that's how they formed from out of Edinburgh University. I think that's what the seed of that was, and obviously got Susan Smith and people like that. But what I remember about it was because I was sort of I wasn't really paying full attention to everything before then. I think that was the moment I got into understanding the debates around this, because I was following. Do you know Beth Douglas?
Oh yes, I used to speak to them quite frequently. Yeah. Not so much since I moved up to Aberdeen, but yeah, they were very much into the bodily autonomy, trying to get the boundary zones, the sort of 200-meter zones that people are not allowed to protest for abortion, against abortion. Sorry. So yeah, that's how I met Beth, and I met Beth through Heather.
Those people, the anti-trans lot and the kind of anti-abortion lot, their paths crossed a lot in Scotland, didn't they? Because you had the Scottish Family Party. Was it called the Scottish Family Party?
Oh yes, I've ran into them. Buffer zones, that was it. We were all campaigning to get buffer zones. It was actually the Scottish Green MSP who championed that, which I was really happy about. Gillian Mackay, and she's really nice. And there's a few groups, Back Off Scotland, myself, the group with Heather and Beth, and we all kind of just bombarded the Parliament with all this pro abortion and reasons why they should have a zone around to protect vulnerable people who are accessing the service, and the TERFs all kicked up about that.
So was that when you started to come onto the radar of those people? Because I know that you've been in the Scottish press, and there was this famous picture, I think I've got it up on my screen now, where you sort of shouting into a microphone with your woolly hat on. And I'd seen that image replicated quite a lot. So
yeah, that was at the Section 35. So that's the GRR that's when I sort of got thrust into the spotlight, and all the nasty folk started catching on that I was making a lot of noise and fuss and treading on their toes, becoming a threat to their their cult.
Well, that's something I wanted to talk about, because I think once you become known to them, once you become like a figure in their collective imagination, the demonization then begins, because I think you're probably one of the most outspoken people, and you're famous for calling J.K. Rowling a torn-faced cow, which I would not advise using kind of misogynistic slurs, but I believe that's a bit of a colloquialism, so I would forgive it. But when you say stuff like that, I think you're fully aware of the effect it's going to have. I don't think you're innocent. You're not an innocent bystander. Do you know what I mean?
No. I mean that term. It's a very Scottish insult, and it just really means a moody faced woman. That's all it means, and it's like, I mean, I probably would like to have left the misogyny out of it, but I think it just perfectly described her.
I think this was one of the points on which we clashed, because I remember pulling you up because you were calling them witches, and I really detest that, and it's not, and a lot of people make that mistake, but you see, we are the witches, because
we are the witches.
You've got to think about it. What is a witch trial? What is a moral panic? What is a witch hunt? That's what, it's when you isolate a section of society and demonize them to the point of being guilty no matter what they do, and then you organize powerfully to have them put on trial, which is what TERFs do to trans women. The whole thing is like being in a witch trial, because it's like you're guilty no matter what answer you give them, or for what, because there's no tangible reason why they hate you apart from being trans, and that is not something we can necessarily explain. When they say what is a woman, that's a very, very duplicitous question, because it puts into trans women's minds that they have to answer it. They have to know that, but we don't necessarily know that. You don't have to know that to know that trans or whatever it is. So
it's like they use it as something to sort of it's a form of humiliation, isn't it? Because they know that will expose, that will make us feel vulnerable as well. In many ways, like it will target our insecurities, and it's so hateful.
Well, it's like any kind of targeted harassment. It's about, if they when you see people targeting fat people and they show pictures of fat people, or they show people on the other side skinny people, people who are, it's a way to sort of demonize through a kind of judgment of how people appear, and the trans bit is not necessarily a part of that. They don't really care about that. They just want a way to demonize. I was just wanting to talk, actually, because I was reminded about how I got speaking to you and Heather initially. So Heather sort of takes a bit of a backseat now, I think, as far as social media goes. Is that true?
Heather's still very, very active, but she's more active now on Blue Sky. She's moved away from the Birdie site because of it's a toxic waste. It's a toxic dumpster fire, isn't it? It's a wasteland now
Well, the only reason, like, I'm on Twitter now and I use it as a research tool because still, this is where because I was just this week, I was looking at the case of the doctor in Fife, who was basically attacked because she was I don't know what the politics of NHS changing rooms are, but I'm sure that could have been resolved quite easily. But it turns out within the transcripts of this case, the nurse is harassing this doctor, for no other reason than her being trans. Now, if she was so affronted by a trans woman being in her presence, I'm sure a manager would have said, right, we're just going to have these two people together. These two people just don't get on. People don't get on for all kinds of reasons.
I know the nurse openly said today, I think it was today or yesterday in the media, that she admires Donald Trump. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but you couldn't use that. You couldn't use that in a case because that would be called plausible deniability. But you see, what the problem I have with it is okay. I would respect some. Your first thought ever as a trans person is you never want to make people feel uncomfortable. We're always self-conscious about things like this. I don't know a single trans woman that feels confident, like, oh, I'm invading a space. That doesn't happen.
Oh, no.
We sort of mediate these things. Like if we're in employment situations, I know I've said, look, if anybody has any issues, can you bring them to me now? Because nobody ever does. Everybody is like, no, it's fine. Why would we have a problem? And if there is somebody with a problem, I think they should be listened to. But the thing is that it's always coming from a point of view of vexation. It's never about safeguarding. It's never about making anything safer, because they never want to do that. Because if they did, they'd look at instances of where sexual harassment does take place. They would look at instances of where sexual inappropriate touching or whatever it is. They would look at where that does take place. And in terms of work situations, it's never in toilets. It's never that. Because I was looking at an NHS statistic, something like 30,000 instances of sexual harassment were reported in just last year. And most of them were from patients. So what I conclude from all of this is the conversation about it in the media is what is damaging, because there'll be certain members of the public that can be radicalized. They can think, oh, trans women are trying to get into our spaces. And then when they do see a trans woman working on a hospital ward, just a doctor or a nurse or a clinician, whatever it is, they might be emboldened to say, you shouldn't be working here, or why are you doing this? It's like...
Especially though, because not everyone thinks as critically as we do. Some people just take things at face value, and they don't look deeper into behind the headlines like we do. Yeah. But and they can very easily get swept up in the hysteria, and before you know it, they've been radicalized into trans-hating vigilantes. It happens so easily, as we see with trans people, unfortunately, getting attacked and all sorts of things.
Well, this is the thing.
And mentally.
I mean, this is the thing. We are more likely as trans. We historically underreport when things happen to us because we diminish it. We don't think as important for some reason. Because like I have said repeatedly, if somebody approaches you and asks you, are you trans, or are you a man, or have you got a penis, or what, that is sexual harassment, because you're isolating somebody and you're intimidating them on the basis of what body parts you think they have. So, like, I can give you an example. I was on a bus, in January last year, and a man approached me and he was like, "Are you a tranny?" And I was like, "Well, it's none of your fucking business." But that to me is sexual harassment. To me, that is sexual harassment because he's isolating something there that is a gendered thing. It's a sexualized thing that he is pushing onto me. So I always say that to people. If you are approached in that way, that should be logged as a sexual harassment. And I don't give a fuck what Naomi Cunningham or Mayor Forstay to think about it, because they're not experts in this. They're experts in their own prejudice. I said to him, these people don't want justice. They want prejudice. And that's exactly what those gender critical lawyers are. Anyway, sorry, that was a ramble. I went off a tangent there, sorry.
No, that's interesting, because I was about a couple of years ago, just after Grampian Pride, Aberdeen's Pride, I was walking through just a shopping centre on my own in Aberdeen, and this man comes up to me and he was like, "Are you one of those transsexuals? Are you one of those trans people?" And he starts like following me and harassing me and like punching me in the arm, and then he turns around and goes, "Oh, do you want to have a drink with me?" And then I says, "No, I've made up some excuse. I've got to go and see my friend or something."
Whoa.
And then when I said that, he just made some like sexual gesture with his tongue at me, and then walked away. I was like, "Geez, that is harassment, sexual harassment."
A lot of trans women, a lot of trans people would not see it. They don't see it as sexual when it is. And that what you just described is blatantly sexual. But even if it is just somebody asking, "Are you trans?" no matter what their gender is, no matter what their sexuality, or that puts you in a vulnerable position, because you cannot answer that question. You cannot communicate with that person on any human level after they've asked you something like that. And this is what goes on social media all the time. I've just got the 4 Women Scotland page up.
It's so dehumanising.
And they're retweeting people like Sal Grover and, you know, the Scene in Journalism account. I mean, I'm not sure who's behind the Scene in Journalism account, but they're very...
I've not worked that one out, but...
They're always like reposting really stupid things, and like and it really worries me, because I think, where is real journalism? Where has it gone? Because anybody that's trained in critical thinking, cross-referencing of information, they would see right through this bullshit straight away. But
that's the thing, but nobody wants to take the time to cross-reference, apart from us and the good folk, as good lefties. But no, Did you have a bit of a run-in with that Wings Over Scotland guy? Because I just saw that 4 Women Scotland were retweeting him. Oh gosh, he's always having a pop at me and Heather. I think he's some old like gamer, and he got a bit of notoriety during the 2014 independence referendum in Scotland, and but since then, because Scotland's not really done anything in terms of moving towards independence, he's just become this like big raging bigot, like a Glenner type figure who just posts hate. And
well, speaking of Glenner, speaking of Glenner, he's just been served, hasn't he, with his
yes, at last
with David Paisley. I mean, we knew this was going to happen.
Thank the goddesses, honestly.
But the thing is, I don't really care about these people. I know it's important that justice is served and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, these are just pointless vexations. We shouldn't be in situations where we have to do this kind of expose people or do anything like that. People should just be allowed. If that is your personality, Graham Linehan, if that's who you are, fine, you be it. But the problem I have is how he influences other people, and how he's able to get into the media as some kind of free speech hero. You know, it's not... He
riles people up as well, and he gets all pally with all the other TERFs, like Helen Stannon. There's always pictures of him and Helen Stannonland.
Well, he does that podcast with Stanyland, doesn't he?
So it sounds grim. I've not listened into that, and I've not had the stomach for that yet.
Well, I mean, I listen to what they do because I'm curious. I mean, I don't listen to it habitually, but I will go onto their pages and I'll read what they're saying, and it's nothing revelatory. It's nothing deeply insightful. It's just used. I mean, Helen Stanyland is a classic case of sexual harassing, because she did that thing of trying to. She had some photos of Katie Montgomery that she thought were Katie Montgomery, and they weren't, and she shared them, and they were, and it's like, well, why are you doing that? You know, if you care about women's spaces or whatever, you wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't be targeting some individual so you can publicly shame them and do what is known as revenge porn and share.
Just because you think they're trans as well, and sometimes they get it wrong, but they never admit to that. They never own up and go, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this." They just double down and keep doing it.
Well, it's kind of like an industry they've got themselves into, isn't it? It's like a sort of cottage industry of hate and each one feeds the other. So like a big account like Graham Linehan will feed a smaller account like Helen Staniland, which will feed a bunch of bottom feeders, and they'll all vie for the same kind of attention. And unfortunately for us, Sophie, we play along. I mean, I would never edit you or tell you what to say. I know I've like pulled you up a couple of times, but I would never tell you
Sometimes I do get a bit loose cannon.
I don't ever tell you what to think or say, but I do despair sometimes about the amount of hours some people put into arguing with these people, because it just kind of feed the algorithm. I understand why people do it. I'm not naive about that, but I just think, well, see, the way I do things now is I do things like this YouTube channel, which I'm trying to do, and it's just because I like to talk to people one-to-one. I like to have a proper conversation. You know, I would talk to anyone from any political spectrum. I've spoken to TERFs. I spoke to Iseult White, who is one of J.K. Rowling's inner circle, and we had a nice conversation. I don't agree with anything she says, but on a human level, we can have a conversation. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to build a bridge with them. It just means that, you know, if you're willing to talk to me, I'm willing to talk to you, you know. But that's it's really difficult when people are ideologically and opposing sides, because, you know, it becomes too aggressive then for me. I have to pull myself back, because I'll end up getting drunk one night on the internet and telling everybody to fuck off.
People get very entrenched in their camps, and I've been trying to move away from the whole X war of words and do more practical activism again, with like the petitioning and the writing and whatnot.
I want to talk about your petition, because that's absolutely brilliant that you've got that accepted. I'm not sure how it works, actually, to be honest. I've never ever done a petition, I'll admit that. So what did you do? What did you have to write? Did you have to submit a proposal to the House of Commons?
Yeah. So you submit a proposal to the House of Commons Parliamentary Committee, and it goes through like rigorous kind of checks. Their standards of what you can put out as a petition are really high. So it's like you've got to choose your words very carefully and make sure everything in it's like factually correct and everything.
This is the thing, Sophie. Like you are like a bit of a contradiction, because on social media you're sometimes a bit loose-lipped and a bit I don't know what the word. Do you know what I mean? You don't hold back, but you're very, very capable, and you're very good at writing. I've read some of your articles, and I think you have a good overview of, you know, I mean, some of the things you put out on Twitter, honestly, I think, oh my God, what's she done now?
I like to disarm them, though. Keep them guessing.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to concentrate, just talk about the petition, because this is really important that we mention this.
Yeah, the petition so what I was doing is I was researching the UN Convention of Human Rights of the Child, and it was a bit of a mouthful, but it's going through all the articles, and I was looking through a lot of them, and a lot of them the ban on puberty blockers for trans kids does contradict with these articles, especially Article 8, which is all about a child's right to identity. And I'm like, they're stripping that child of their right to be themselves, to their right to identity. And I was like, there might be an angle here. So I was like carefully wording it, using all the correct words from the UN website, and I submitted it. And then after a few back and forths with the committee of changing bits here and there to make sure it was all prim and proper for their standards, it got approved. I mean, it took about a month to approve it, because I actually first submitted it about a month ago. But
it's got 4,560 signatures in, I don't know how many, is that 4 or 5 days?
That's only 2 days. I'm
Okay.
astonished because
Yeah.
some big accounts started sharing it,
Yeah.
and
But the crux of the thing is, it's like we know that through with the cast review and all that, that was that's politically motivated. It's what I call biopolitics. It doesn't really address anything. It doesn't help the people that need that service or, you know, medication, whatever it is. I'm no expert in, you know, that, but I just know that the complaints don't come from the families of those children about the service. I mean, if they do, the people that complained about Tavistock were complaining about waiting times. They were complaining about the fact their children were being told to wait 5 years, and there's nothing there for them. And you know, Susie Green was trying to do her best work and just put, you know, some bridging thing in between, you know, the GP and having to go down this gender pathway, which must be frightening if you're a child. You know what I mean? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Any medical pathway is, you know, it's not something people take on lightly, because the way that, you know, Graham Linehan, not to mention his name too many times, but it's like they feel like the kids are being put under some kind of spell. You know what I mean? Like it's some kind of voodoo witch doctor thing going on. But we know, that no matter what happens, those families of those children are going to try and access that care by any means necessary, because they know the happiness that their child gets from that.
Oh, the absolute joy, I know. And I think because people, like the likes of all these TERFs, they don't understand just how destructive gender dysphoria is. They don't understand just how painful, not just for the person suffering, but for the family and friends around the person suffering. It's a horrendous thing to live with. And people are like, oh, but Sophie, you managed to live with it. And I'm like, barely.
Yeah,
Barely. It was torture.
You see, my personal, whenever I've been in the media, I try to avoid talking about people's children, because whatever happens to somebody's child is basically none of my business. I just want that child. I just want that child to be supported. I want them to be loved. I want them to have the best of anything. But I can't come along and have some kind of an opinion about, you know, puberty blockers, because I don't know enough about the medication, because they will ask me about that sometimes when I go on LBC or whatever it is. But my main point to those people is, well, why not have self-ID so children can? Why not let children just wear whatever uniforms they want? Why not let children just have their hair any way they want? Why do they have to go, you know, be gendered before they're even born? Why do we have to concentrate on this gender thing all the time? Just let children. You know, because I
would love that if they just removed gender from all birth certificates. I would love that.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a very radical notion, but that's what I would campaign on, because I mean, I've told this story a few times, so people that have listened to me probably think, "Oh, you're telling that story again, Freda." But when I was at school, there was two entrances. One said boys and one said girls. And one of my first inklings that something might be wrong is when I said to one of the teachers, "Why do I have to go in this way when the girls are going in that way?" And I didn't know I was trans. I didn't know anything about gender. I just knew something was weird about the way we were being divided up. So the first principle, the first questioning, my first rebellion was me saying, "Fuck you! I don't really care what dead. Why do I have to go in the door you tell me to just because it says boys on it?" And I think if more children had that kind of curiosity, you know what I mean? I always say to these nasty people on social media that go on about parents transing their children, I said, if you've got a child that's critically thinking about who they are and what they mean, what the outside world means, you've got an intelligent one. Because it's questioning the world around it very soon, you know. And I mean,
it's like they treat children as though they're not intelligent. A lot of these gender critical children are extremely smart and they're extremely aware of who they are.
That's true. You know, I mean, my nieces and nephews were like, when I think about how I was when I was a kid, they know so much, and they're so much more confident than I was. I'm sometimes a bit jealous that I wasn't brought up in this late. Cause everybody goes on about how bad the internet is and how bad social media is, but actually, the fact that kids can just research something themselves and, you know, and find people that share the same ideas as them, that's really powerful. And as long as they're not being influenced in a negative way, you know, obviously there are good and bad with everything, and specifically that, you know, I would say, like, I have seen my nephew looking at things on TikTok, and I'm like, oh my God, why are you looking at that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's there's that whole side of it. But there's a lot of good, as you say, there's a lot of good that comes from children being able to have all this information at hand that we just didn't have when we were growing up.
I mean, speaking of, I mean, so yeah, that petition, I'm so glad that, I mean, it will get pushback because people will just say, oh, you're trying to, you know, they use this word groomer all the time, which is really insidious, and it's really abusive to say that, because not only does it diminish real abuse that goes on, and we know it goes on, it just makes, you know, anybody using that word should just have a bit of a word with themselves, because, you know,
absolutely,
you know, why are you using such a extreme word for this? You know, because, you know, there's no evidence of any, you know, abuse like that. You know,
I know, it's like
but I would
jump on. Yeah, they just jump on you like hyenas, like a pack of hyenas.
Oh yeah, it's like the, you know, they know they can intimidate you with a word like that, because what is the worst thing you could possibly imagine being? What is the worst thing somebody could say that you are? And it's that, and that's why they do it. That's because it's like it's a shortcut. It's like a cultural shorthand for them to say you are the demon. You know, I am the righteous one. It goes back to the witch trial thing.
Absolutely. The whole intimidation, trying to corral us and make us into these, like, subhuman, like, people that are going to corrupt the youth and all the rest of it.
I saw you post, I was going to say, I saw you post about Donald Trump and his sports ban. And I've just got the picture up on the screen now. So what I noticed was, you know, the
picture.
Yeah, that photo opportunity. Now, I've never seen a more
so staged.
I've never seen a more blatant example of what Hitler used to do. Now, I know everybody says, oh yeah, you think everybody's Hitler now, you think everybody's not. No, but this is like, there was a magazine that came out in the 1930s and 40s called Signal, and it used to put out pictures of Hitler with children and dogs and beautiful girls with blonde hair.
Make him look like a family man.
Yeah, and then pictures of tanks and rockets. So that's the era we're in now. It's about rockets. It's about the idea of the family, the idea of motherhood, the idea of the sacred mother, the idea that Trump is some kind of eternal father, and it's all that is what the roots of, it's all bullshit.
Big Daddy Trump, yeah, Daddy Trump. Jeez, he couldn't be further away from that.
Well, the grab him by the pussy guy is now the savior of women.
It's now that let's just sit round in a circle, kids, and sing about how much we love our fatherland, or whatever.
It's a photo opportunity. That's all it is, because none of those, no women or girls in sport are going to be helped by this. I was listening to Sharon Davis on the TV yesterday. And she genuinely believes that Trump is doing something good here, but it's political for them. It's not about helping young girls get into sport. It's not about reducing systemic misogyny that stops young footballers achieving because their coaches are perverts, as we have seen. They don't want to talk about that, and they never talk about that because it's too real. It's too much on the doorstep. Whereas this, they can say, oh yeah, 10 trans women are in sports, so we've got to stop them. You know what I mean?
Like thousands of cis people, millions of cis people. They're like, wow, let's just pick on this tiny amount. I mean, most clubs probably won't even have a single trans person in them at the moment. But let's just let's just stoke the fear anyway.
I actually, in this country, like I've spoken to trans women that work in sports, and a lot of them are volunteers. A lot of them work in amateur sports, in paddle, and they work in like grassroots football. And they're mentors to people, you know what I mean? Because they know struggle, they know what it's
Brilliant.
like, you know what I mean? They know what it's like.
If anyone knows struggle, it's us.
Well, I mean, it's that idea of overcoming obstacles, isn't it? And getting on with your life no matter what. And that's a good lesson to learn. I mean, I always think there should be a trans woman in every company. There should be a trans woman in every job, because they should be the consultant for,
oh, yes. We're like the ultimate HR, aren't we? We're like the ultimate agony aunt. We really are. We've seen it all. We've done it all.
I mean, I say this. There are some trans women that are complete bitches. Let's not.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is. It's not like we're all holier than thou. I mean, there is the.
I was thinking about Brianna Wu when I said that, but.
Oh gosh, she's just. Oh, I don't understand people like Brianna Wu and Debbie Hayton. These people, I will never understand where they come from, because the whole thing is just so bizarre to me.
Well, they don't realise that people like Kelly J. Keane, or those what they call extreme TERFs or whatever they call themselves, they don't care what Debbie Hayton says or what Brianna Wu says when they're trying to, make some kind of argument for a real trans woman or whatever it is they think they are. I don't even know what that is, Sophie. You know what I mean? I'll never get to it.
I don't know where that comes from, where that sort of begging to be part of the in crowd, that still trying to want to be accepted by people that hate you. I don't get that. Yeah.
Well, in America now, I think it would be quite frightening to be trans, and because somebody like Brianna Wu is very visible, she's been out there, people knew she is. I think just to give her the benefit of the doubt, that there's this thing like, right, I need to plan my way out. I need to work out how I'm going to survive. I need to make sure I've got what I want, and it's like a sort of survival strategy almost, that they think they have to find allies in the winning team. But that never really works out, because it's like hiding behind the bully in the school playground, because once you do that, you have to also pick on the other kids. Once you stood with the bully, you can no longer call that bully out. You can't say, actually, what you're saying here is bullshit, because you need that person for protection. And in order to get that protection, they will expect you to go along with the bullying. So that's the problem with, somebody like Brianna Wu, or what's the other one, Blair White. I mean,
I hope they're okay, these people. I really do. I mean, I worry for them as much as anything, because I'm like, gosh, you're just setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up just to be harmed. I'm like, dearie me, you're playing right into the hands of the bigots. And I hate seeing people get exploited, even if they're knowingly doing it to themselves. I still don't like seeing it, because it's like, I don't like seeing people get harmed by bullies. Bullies are the worst, and that's kind of why I'm like the way I am. I want to stop the bullies.
Yeah, and I think if you're somebody like, I don't know about you, but when you have been bullied, you have been singled out when you're a kid, and when you see it happening to other people, once you've sort of built up your shell, you go in there, don't you? And that's not always a good idea, but I have sort of tried to step in when I've seen somebody, when I've been in these Twitter chat spaces, and I've heard people being really abused in there, and I've gone in and say, hang on a minute, come out of this space. And I brought them out of that space and just said, look, you don't have to talk to those people. I'm not telling you what to do, but you don't have to justify yourself to any of these people. Now what the situation we're in now is the bully is the president, like and all the right wingers in this country are jealous, because that's the authoritarianism they want. That's why they're trying to get rid of Starmer and trying to think of any reason. I mean, I don't like Starmer. I'm not saying I do, but what I'm saying is they want to destabilise the government so they can bring somebody like Nigel Farage in as some kind of saviour hero. But actually, Trump now, I mean, if you think about what he's done, like banning sports for trans people in schools or whatever it is, or stuff, you become the school bully. You know, that essentially is what is happening.
He is like the most powerful bully in the world, and it's like it just beggars belief that they've elected a bully. But people idolise bullies. I've never understood that either. But people like fawn towards horrible people.
I think what it's it is. Yeah. I mean, I think what it is. It's a lot of these people. They feel like they've been told what to think, and they've had rainbows thrust down their throats and drag queens. They don't want to see them on the telly. The same people that don't want to see black people on the telly. And so now they've got an opportunity to shout just as loud as everybody else. They're going crazy. It's like suddenly they've been given a bullhorn to be as racist as possible. It's like free speech. Like people go on about free speech all the time. But they just want the freedom to be horrible, you know. It's like the people that people that go on about free speech the most are the ones that have nothing nice to say, you know.
It's like some mass catharsis, isn't it? It's like some sort of mass, like it's like you know what it's like Twitter and social media. And it's like the reason why men back in like the 70s would go to the football just to let out just this vehement spew of abuse, of pent up rage and emotion that they couldn't let out during the week at work. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. It's just all the people that want to get their tuppence worth, that want to spew their feelings, are just spewing them now.
Yeah, and I think it's
the rage.
I think they should get their say. I think everybody should be allowed to say what. I mean, I'm very against people being sent to prison for things they've said on social media, because what that does, it makes martyrs of people. It makes the right be able to say, "Aha, see, you are the authoritarian who wants to shut us up," and then people like Nigel Farage will exploit that, you know, and. Even though Nigel Farage has said he's distanced himself from Tommy Robinson, they've only distanced himself from Tommy Robinson because he knows it's easier to link him to the far right that way. They absolutely believe this. If you look at what Rupert Lowe is saying, I don't know if you're aware of Rupert Lowe, but he's exactly the same as Tommy Robinson. He's just in a suit, you know. Yeah. He's just in Parliament. I was just looking at, you know, because I get the Byline Times, and I was just reading about how Trump's victory is linked to what goes on in the lobby groups of Westminster. And you know that I've been to Tufton Street. I did trick or treat on Tufton Street.
That was amazing. I loved that. You got to go past Dreyfus and Glenner, and that made me smile.
Yeah, I mean, I like getting in front of these people, because I shove a microphone in front of them and I say, well, what is it you want, this amazing free speech? What is it you want to say so badly? And when you do that, they don't say anything. They don't have any words, you know.
They all clam up because they all love to mouth behind the computer, don't they? They all love that. But when, like you say, when I actually go out on street protests and that, these people are so small. Like, they're not the big figures that they are behind their big accounts.
No.
They're often scared, and a lot of these people, I feel it's like a lot of their insecurities pushes them towards becoming the bullies themselves, and they're lashing out. And I see that. You'll see that, like when you're on Tufton Street, and I love that you do that. It's great. It's great to get out there in people's face, because that's how you get people to really to find out what people are really like, because people can be so so put up a pretense on social media. You never really see the true individual behind the screen, but when you're face to face with them, it's a different story.
Yeah. I mean, I've had my run-ins with these people because, you know, I was going on GBnews, I was going on Talktv, and I worked for Talktv. I did some copywriting work for them, and I did some articles, and they were very keen, these free speech people, to have all my articles removed, and that happened, you know. One day they were there, the next minute they were gone, and I asked why, and nobody could give me a reasonable answer. So, you know, it was the day after I'd written about J.K. Rowling, so I think that might have had something to do with it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, she's the untouchable, isn't she? You cannot say anything bad about Rowling.
Well, I mean,
until you do.
the thing about Rowling is she's a coward, because she will never face an interview where somebody will grill her on what she believes. She will only ever speak to people that are in absolute agreement with her, like she did
when she did sycophants.
Yeah, exactly. And she'll have her own little army of journalists who write favourably about what she wants them to do. And so I would challenge, you know, I would sit right in front of J.K. Rowling, and I would dismantle everything she thinks, because I don't care about, you know, what it is to be a woman or what it means to be trans. I just care about the targeted harassment and the campaign of hate, which is evident, and she has a lot of questions to answer. So I mean,
the level of hate she spews daily now it's just tenfold even what it was a year ago.
Yeah. But the thing is that people in the media start to notice very slowly, and because the thing is, the rolling news cycle is very fast, and Trump is taking over a lot of it. Farage is taking over a lot of it. J.K. Rowling is nothing to these people. They don't really take her that seriously. They are vaguely aware. The people that support her, like Andrew Neil, will use her name as some kind of bargaining chip to say, oh, well, if J.K. Rowling is concerned...
Some leverage.
Yeah, it's like the whole thing of, how could a nice middle-class white lady be a bigot? You know what I mean?
I know. They use her, don't they? Because she's that. It's a good name to throw in the mix. It's a good name to disarm people and to stoke up and to fan the flames and get people all charged up, because people know who she is, and that's the thing. And when you get like a once beloved child off her in the mix, it's like, yeah, well, she cannot be a bigot because she used to write children's books. And
I wanted to bring something up, because I was just reminded when I was scrolling my bookmarks, and it's to do with Councillor Laurie Burton.
Oh, Mr. Laurie.
So you ended up in the Echo? I can't remember what public.
The South End Echo. Yeah.
Because I mean, I spoke to a trans rights group, trans advocacy group in that area, and they were fully aware of him. And he's a Labour councillor, but he hangs around with a lot of the same people Rosie Duffield does. You know, Claire Fox, all the LGB Alliance people. So I feel like he's being co-opted. I think they've bought him.
I think he's a member even of LGBT Alliance. I think he's a full paid-up member or something. He's completely in their pocket, and he goes around and he goes around Twitter, and he posts all these like really sort of passive-aggressive, transphobic remarks on just loads of posts. Yeah.
When I look at this guy, I just think about the fuck around, find out graph. Because he's been fucking around so much that the find out is going to be glorious. Because these people never learn, do they? It's like, look what happened to Rosie Duffield.
Yeah.
Sophie Duffield. Dozy Ruffield.
Dozy Ruffield.
So Dozy Ruffield, she got caught seeing somebody's husband in lockdown.
Oh, geez.
And this all resurfaced because she was in the press again, because apparently she couldn't accept that Keir Starmer had thrown women under the bus. I mean, whoever believes that is either, fully complicit or willfully ignorant, or just a bit thick,
It's like, the thing is, it's like when you're a liability to to the far right hate preachers, they just chuck you. They've no allegiance to you. They'll throw you to the meat grinder as fast as they'll bring you on board. I mean, these people are so deluded. They think that they have their best interests, but they're just using them. So, they're just getting used.
So
yeah.
Did you get any feedback from your complaint about Laurie Burton? Because I didn't.
It's still going on. It's been going on for like months with Southend on Sea Council, and it's had like they've brought in like a solicitor and everything. It's still going on, and they're still digging their heels in, even though there's been me and a bunch of others, yourself included, that have been complaining.
The thing is, like, when you launch a complaint, it is about an isolated incident. It is about him. Now, what somebody needs to do is look at what connects all these people. Because when people complained about Rosie Duffield, when people complained about Councillor Burton, when people complain about any, of these people, there is always one organising principle, and it is transphobia. And when you complain about somebody individually, those connections are not made. It's the same as when you report something to the police. So, we've been stalked, we've been cyber stalked by people on the internet who are linked to the Graham Linehan. So when you make a complaint, that complaint exists in isolation from mine or anybody else's. So rather than the police recognising that this is a pattern, there's actually a thing going on here, where there's a number of complaints about an individual, that doesn't seem to happen.
They don't seem to link up, do they? And when you're sending complaints to other places, like so.
Your microphone's gone a bit shit there, Soph.
Oh, is it back on again?
Yeah.
Better? Good. I'm back. I'm sorry, TERFs, but my voice is back again.
Yeah. Your microphone's not brilliant, but it's working all right. Because, like, I'll do this, and I will edit bits out where you've dropped out and stuff. But I like to do it as a telephone conversation, because obviously a lot of the people I do want to talk to want to stay anonymous. So I thought I'd do it like this so it can stay consistent, because I'm talking to some ex-TERFs who were part of Kelly J. Key, and they got away from that because they talked to me, and they sort of realised that actually I'm not a paedophile. You know what I mean? It was simple. It was simple as that for them, because that's basically what they call us, And if you're gonna go along with that, kind of calling me a predator, calling me a sexual deviant, calling me a pervert, and it's like, you're a bit like me in that sense that you will antagonize that part of those people that is puritanical, because they've got pictures of me from when I was in fetish clubs and stuff like that, and I put those images out. I make sure people can see that stuff, and the reason I do that is because they're exactly the same people that will attack me or you for that will attack somebody like Robin Moyer Wright. Anybody, it doesn't matter how squeaky clean somebody is or how respectable they are, they think of us all like that. And that was my point by doing that. So the idea that an image can shame me or an image can damage me or you can get some sort of, you can weaponize something like that against me would never work, because I own that image. I understand why I did it.
It's like, they try all these tactics, don't they? But I stopped caring about them sharing stuff about me now, because it's like I'm beyond that. It's like that sort of petty passing the picture around the back of the classroom things. Yeah, I'm just above all that now.
You see, you've got to remember that whenever you do anything in the media, whenever you're prominent or you're in a newspaper article, or you're getting somewhere with your activism, they will always bring out those pictures. They will always try and find the worst picture of you or a sexualized images of you, and you've got to show people this is what they're going to do, this is how they behave, and then it's only one click away from J.K. Rowling, and that is how we bust them, because they can't help themselves. They just cannot help. They can't. They
love it, don't they?
They're so keen to demonize us that it doesn't actually work. It's like, it's like they're so ravenous that people looking at them going, who are these fucking nut jobs? You know what I mean? And that's what you've got to show people. That's why you do
It's the speed, yeah. The speed they do it, the speed they attack us as well. It's like sometimes I just feel like they must have just like some sort of notification set up on their computer to alert them whenever we post something.
So anyway, I want to go talk about something more positive, like, because I know we talked a lot about abuse. I mean, we had to talk about that, and obviously there is some good news because we've got the petition out there.
I'm really pleased about that. I'm going to keep pushing it.
I just want to talk about, like, because whenever these gender critical people think they have got a case, or it always seems to fall flat. You know what I mean? It always seems to, they always have to lie about it because they know they're losing. Now,
absolutely.
Politically, it can feel like we're losing a lot because the attitude of the government towards trans people is shit. But I think, generally speaking, it's not coming from the public. Like, when I go out and do daily life, people are just sweet, you know? And it's like,
people are great, yeah.
Yeah, you've just got to remember that, because, like, it might seem like online everybody's getting at you and everybo's evil, and they are. But that's not the real world. These are people that are emboldened by Elon Musk. You know what I mean? So
it's heart gestures of the heart.
yeah.
Allegedly, it's a freaking Nazi salute.
Well, I mean, this is it. You know, we live in a world now where everything is trolling. You know, it's hard to take anything seriously because it's been divorced from its meaning so much that things like that can be passed off as trolling or having a laugh. So. You know, so that is why nobody takes Twitter seriously. That's why that nobody takes this politics seriously, because it's like, especially with Trump, it's not even about policy. It's about grandstanding and it's about media spectacle. That's why
showmanship.
That's partly why we're here, because the media love Trump, and the media deliberately let him get away with things because it creates more clicks, likes and shares, and therefore that translates to money. So
bait overdrive, yeah.
So yeah,
they love it, rage baiting, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't want to say, you know, we do live good lives and we get on with our lives, and despite all this, we can have a laugh, you know.
And another thing as well, I don't know if you find this, but all the hate that gets thrown at you, it's actually made me stronger as a person. I actually feel like so much more, like, so much cooler, better person because of all this hate that's been thrown at me. Like, it's made me stronger, I think, in many ways. I mean, I wish we didn't have to have gone through that to be stronger, but it's like, it makes me appreciate all the good stuff that I have as well.
Well, you know,
yin with the yang.
Well, it does kind of make you very resilient. Well, what it does for me is it puts things into perspective of what's important and what isn't. And, you know, me just getting on with my life is more important than any of the politics. But I've always been a person that follows politics because it excites me in a way. Like when I went to London, to Tufton Street, when I went to, you know, LGB Alliance conference, I'm doing it because I want a front row seat of what is going on. I want to be right there. I want to understand this what is going on. I want to talk to people. So there is a kind of like war correspondent in me. Do you know what I mean? I think in another life I would have been Kate Adie.
It really is though. It's addictive. It's you get this sort of adrenaline rush from it. You're like, what the hell's going to happen next? And I think that's like the hysteria, like everyone's getting swept up in it at the moment, a sort of mass hysteria, and it's infectious, isn't it? you can't take your eye off it for a second, because you're just like, what on earth is going to happen now?
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, I thank you for your activism and everything you do. I think it's really important. And
Likewise,
don't
thank
ever
you.
forget that it's not, it's always worthwhile, whatever you do. And you have made some amazing steps towards trans liberation, and people should remember that. And I think, you are a bit wild on the internet. You are a bit wild on Twitter. But you're always on it. You're always honest, and you're always, there's no two versions of you, really. It's like,
it's like, yeah, I mean, it's but that's the thing. All the activists of the past we're all a bit kooky. We're all a bit,
yeah. I
we're
mean,
all a bit out there. You've got to be half mad to do this.
yeah, I think that's true. I think you've got to have a kind of inner drive that is beyond sanity. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna. If you've got anything else to add, I'm not cutting you off, but I'm going to wrap it up.
No,
Yeah. So thanks for doing it, and I'll get it
you're
up.
welcome.
I'm stopping recording now, so let me just stop the recording.